The clinking of silverware against porcelain was the only sound that filled the room, until my brother's voice cut through it like a blade. "Where's Mom's $47,500, Emily? Return it, or you're out." The fork slipped from my hand, landing softly against the linen napkin on my lap. For a second, I just stared at him, his jaw tight, his eyes filled with the same self-righteous anger I remembered too well. Around the table, everyone froze. My niece's laughter died mid-breath. Even the candle flames seemed to shrink, as if they, too, feared what would come next. I took a slow breath, tasting rosemary and tension in the air. The turkey sat perfectly golden, the cranberry sauce untouched, and yet everything about the evening felt spoiled. I had spent the entire day preparing for this dinner, hosting Thanksgiving in my home for the first time, trying to make things right. But apparently, peace wasn't on the menu. I leaned back slightly, brushing an invisible wrinkle from my silk blouse, forcing my voice to stay calm. "That's quite an accusation, Daniel," he scoffed. "Don't play innocent. We all know what you did after Mom died." The words hung there, heavy and cruel. Inside, my pulse drummed in my ears, but on the outside, I smiled faintly. Years had taught me that silence was sometimes louder than any defense. If only they knew the truth, what that money had really meant, and what I had done with it. Because that night wasn't about theft. It was about everything I had built from the ashes of their doubt. I can still remember that day after Mom's funeral, the air heavy with grief and resentment. Her old house smelled of lilies and lemon cleaner, the same scent she used every Saturday morning. We were all sitting in the living room, the wool spread across the coffee table like a battle map. Daniel was pacing, hands shoved in his pockets, while my aunt murmured something about fairness. I sat quietly, holding Mom's locket between my palms. It was warm from my touch, the small golden heart that never left her neck now resting in mine. When the lawyer read the part about the $47,500 set aside for Emily's project, the room fell silent. I knew it wasn't much compared to the rest, but the tone in everyone's eyes said it was too much for me. Daniel's voice rose first. "She gets what? For what project? Mom didn't tell any of us about that." "She told me," I said softly, "before she got sick. She wanted me to build something meaningful, something of my own." His laugh was short and cruel. "Meaningful? You've never built anything in your life, Em. You couldn't even keep your last job." The words stung, but not as much as realizing how little he believed in me. The lawyer tried to mediate, explaining that the note was handwritten by Mom herself, but Daniel didn't care. To him, I was already guilty of greed, of betrayal, of daring to be trusted. When it was over, I stood up, clutching Mom's locket so tight the edges pressed into my skin. "You don't have to believe me," I told him. "But one day, you'll see what she saw." He just shook his head, muttering, "You'll waste it like always." That night, I packed my things. No dramatic goodbye, no second chances. Just a small duffel bag, Mom's letter tucked safely inside. Her handwriting still echoed in my mind. "Build something that lasts, sweetheart. Not for them. For you." I didn't know how or what, but I knew one thing. If that money was the last thing Mom ever gave me, I was going to make sure it meant something. Even if it meant walking away from everything else. Starting over wasn't glamorous. It never is. I moved to a small one-bedroom apartment in Portland, cracked walls, thin carpets, and a heater that rattled like it was on its last breath. My first night there, I ate instant noodles on the floor, surrounded by unpacked boxes and silence. It should have felt lonely. Instead, it felt like a clean slate. With Mom's $47,500, I was cautious. Every dollar mattered. I didn't buy new furniture or fancy clothes. I bought a refurbished laptop and enrolled in a short business course online. During the day, I waitressed at a cafe downtown. At night, I learned how to build websites, brand small businesses, and design social media campaigns. That's when I met Mary Ann Walker, a sharp, silver-haired marketing consultant who ordered the same cappuccino every morning. She noticed me reading a course book one afternoon and asked, "You studying or escaping?" I smiled. "Maybe both." The words hit harder than I expected. My throat tightened, but I kept my voice steady. She believed in me when no one else did. You called it stealing. She called it starting. I walked back to the table, picking up my glass again. Dinner's getting cold, I said, calm but final. For a few long moments, all anyone could hear was the faint ticking of the clock and the slow creak of Daniel sinking back into his chair. Finally, he cleared his throat. So, you really did it. I really did. And for the first time in years, I didn't feel the need to explain myself further. The proof was all around them. Every piece of furniture, every carefully chosen painting, every quiet, glowing reminder that I had built something from faith and doubt alike. I wasn't the girl who left with a duffel bag anymore. I was the woman who turned $47,500 into a life. For a long moment, no one moved. The tension in the room had softened, replaced by something quieter, uncertainty, maybe even guilt. Daniel's gaze flickered between me and the plaque on the wall, his pride wrestling with realization. I took my seat again, folding my napkin slowly. You asked where Mom's money went, I said gently. Now you know. It didn't disappear, it grew. Daniel let out a shaky breath. I didn't know. I know you didn't, I said, my voice steady but not cold. You never ask. He looked down at his plate, the weight of his own words from years ago settling over him. I could see the younger version of him there, the one who had carried too much burden after Dad left, the one who thought control meant protection. I understood him, even if he'd never understood me. I'm not angry anymore, I continued. But I've learned that forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. He nodded slightly, still silent. So here's what I'll say, Daniel. If you want to be part of my life again, it's not about money. It's about respect. I leaned forward, my hands folded neatly on the table. No more judging me or anyone else for choosing a different path. No more dismissing dreams you don't understand. If you want to come here to sit at my table, it has to be as family, not as a jury. His eyes lifted to mine. For the first time, I saw something genuine remorse. My aunt sniffled softly. Emily, your mother would be proud of you. I smiled faintly. I hope so. Daniel finally spoke, his voice low. You're right. I was wrong. About everything. I thought you wasted it, but you built something. Something real. He hesitated. I don't expect you to forgive me. I already have, I said. But forgiveness has conditions too. You show me change. You live with humility. You stop letting pride decide who's worth love. He swallowed, nodding slowly. Then I did something unexpected. I reached for his hand. Mom wanted us to stay close, I said softly. Maybe we can still honor that. But I won't shrink myself again to make peace. Not anymore. His fingers tightened around mine just slightly. Deal, he said. The corners of my mouth lifted. Good. Then let's eat. We passed dishes around again, the silence now replaced by cautious conversation, small laughs, even a few tears. The storm had passed, not perfectly, but enough. As I watched Daniel help my niece pour gravy over her mashed potatoes, I realized something. I didn't need his validation anymore. But maybe, just maybe, he needed my example. Power wasn't about proving anyone wrong. It was about standing tall, even when they finally saw you for the first time. A week after Thanksgiving, Daniel showed up at my office. I was in the middle of reviewing a campaign proposal when my assistant buzzed in, saying, "There's a man here, says he's your brother." For a second, I froze. Then I told her to send him in. He stood there awkwardly in the doorway, hands shoved into his jacket pockets. His eyes swept the room, the polished desks, the framed client logos, the small photo of Mom on my shelf. "This place," he murmured. "It's incredible." "Thank you," I said simply. He pulled out a folded piece of paper. I found this when I was cleaning Mom's attic. It's a letter. I think it was meant for both of us." I took it carefully, my heart tightening as I recognized her handwriting. "To my children, if life ever turns you against each other, remember this. Money is only power if you let it divide you. Use it to build, not to blame." Take care of each other. Always. Love, Mom. My eyes blurred for a moment. When I looked up, Daniel's expression was soft, almost childlike. I guess she saw what we couldn't, he said quietly. I'm sorry, Emily, for the way I treated you, for doubting you. I smiled through the tears gathering in my lashes. We were both grieving, Daniel. We just did it differently. He nodded. Still thank you for not shutting the door. Mom wouldn't have wanted me to. He exhaled, glancing once more around the office before turning to leave. But before he reached the door, he said, You built something that lasts, Em. You really did. When he was gone, I sat down at my desk, running my thumb over the old gold locket hanging around my neck. The metal was warm against my skin, just like it had been the day I left home. Outside my window, the city buzzed quietly. My reflection stared back from the glass, older, steadier, stronger. Mom's voice echoed in my heart. Build something that lasts. And I finally understood. She hadn't just meant a business. She meant me. Because the life I built wasn't measured in dollars or success. It was measured in peace. In the strength to stand tall, to forgive, and to love without losing myself again. I smiled, whispering to the empty room. Mom didn't just leave me money, she left me a mirror. And for the first time, I finally liked the woman I see in it. Bottom of form,